Hello, music lovers. Welcome to another round of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominations. That's right. It's that time of year. Once again, hard to believe it's back again. I felt like I just stopped talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But yeah, new nominees just came out. The induction ceremony will be held next year in May. And in January is when we'll find out who actually gets inducted. But until then, yeah, we get all riled up and pissed off when this list comes out, don't we? We take a look at this list and we go, they're not rock and roll. Who the hell is that? And, they should be in and they should be out. And you know what I say? Who gives a shit? Really? Because this whole thing is a joke. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a joke, okay? It started off as a Hall of Fame for rock and rollers, commemorating the great artists from the, 60s and the 70s and the 80s. And of course, there's some artists from the 90s who should be in there, but, let's stick to rock and roll. But no, you can't do that because we've already put in a lot of the greats. They're already in there. And the new guy who has taken over the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has talked about how the hall has evolved and how music has changed. And so, they have to change. The only thing is, the fucking name hasn't changed. Why don't you change the name? If everything else has changed, give it a new name to reflect what's going on. How can you put Tupac in a rock and roll Hall of Fame? We've also got like Madonna is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It just doesn't sound right. It doesn't make any sense. And I think that there was a time, when we wanted to have our favorite bands in there. I remember for the longest time I was pissed off because Rush wasn't in there. And it was a joke. It was like year after year they kept getting snubbed. And finally they went in. But it's like, after all these other artists went in, like Madonna and stuff like that, it's just like, it just doesn't make any sense. And like I said, we've got Tupac in there, we've got Green Day in there. Why is Green Day in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Now, I'm not saying that Green Day sucks. I'm just saying, are they Hall of Fame level? Are they the same level as Zeppelin and a lot of the great bands of our time? I don't think so. So the bar, in my opinion, has been lowered. Just to be clear, I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame used to be credible. Now they've moved into different territories. There's a new guy running the show starting in January. His name is John Sykes. He's taken over for Jan Wiener, who is now on his way out. And John Sykes, just to be sure here, he's not the same John Sykes from Whitesnake, okay? Not the same guy. And by the way, where the hell is John Sykes? He's supposed to have a new album, but for years and years, nothing. John, where the hell are you, buddy? All right. Back to the Hall of Fame. This is a complete joke. When you look at these nominees and you look at what has gone in, and just think about this for a second. We've got Tupac Shakur in there, we've got Green Day in there, we've got Madonna in there. So think about that while we're looking at this list and ask yourself, if they could be in, why can't these guys be in? What is it about this list and these artists that you say, nah, I don't think they should go in, I don't think they're as good as Tupac. I don't think that they're as good as Madonna, not as deserving. The Hall of Fame has become more of an entertainment vehicle. They have a show to put on. And the new guy, John Sykes, has even talked about they're trying to reach like a new audience, a new generation of fans. And let's face it, when you are a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, it's like you get a credential that you can put onto your advertisements, when you go on tour. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I'm sure the ticket prices go up. There's more asses in the seats. I remember not long after Joan Jett went in, there was this tour with her and Cheap Trick and Hart. They just so happened to go into Hall of Fame, and now they're going out on tour together. And, it's just like, to me, it's just branding and advertising, and we've gotten away from honoring the greats of rock and roll. It would be like you go to the Natural History Museum and you're used to seeing dinosaurs, and it's like now we're seeing like, Volvos and microwaves. It's like, what the hell happened? It's like, well, we haven't gotten very many new dinosaurs lately, so we've decided to venture out into, cars and stuff like, and it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, you got to change the name. Anyway, let's dig into this list. I want you to let me know what you think about it. Who do you think is going to get in from this list, okay? We've got Pat Benatar. Now, Pat Benatar should have been in there a long time ago. It's a crime that she's been waiting around. And I'm glad to see, because they also have announced who who's going to be eligible to go in, like who's actually going to go in from these bands. And they're going to put in not only Pat, but her husband too, Neil. They've been a partnership ever since the beginning. You know, Neil, you know, without one or the other, there would have been no Benatar, to be honest with you. He was very much a part of the songwriting process, and he's an amazing guitar player. And of course, you can't have anything without Pat and what she brought in. They were a true duo. And so I'm glad to see that he's being inducted with her, or would be. But this is her year. You know, she's got to go in. This is a disgrace. You know, she's been so influential. I couldn't believe when Joan Jett went in. It just seemed crazy. She was there performing with Nirvana when they got inducted. And then the following year, oh, just so happens we got Joan Jett in there. It's like, you know, she's had a handful of hits. Most of them she didn't even write. Pat Benatar, much more of an influence on women in rock. Many more hits, way more talent. Just a shame that she hasn't been in. So hopefully this will be Pat's year. All right, so up next is the Dave Matthews Band. And I like these guys because, you know, I was a fan of theirs when they were a local band here. They got their start about an hour away from me up in Charlottesville. And they, you know, they were just a cool band. I mean, they were very jam-oriented, and I love their earlier stuff. And they became a bit more song-oriented, and they've lost a couple of members, and I really haven't been paying too much attention to them lately, but I like the earlier stuff. And, you know, I think they're a great band, but should they go in now? I don't think so. Should they go in eventually? Again, the Green Day test. If Green Day is in there, you got to put the Dave Matthews Band in, but it's just a question of when, you know. One of the things that's interesting to me about this is that all the current members of the Dave Matthews Band would go in. And to me, that's a slap in the face to like Deep Purple, let's say. You know, Steve Morse, he's been their guitar player for the past 20 years, an amazing guitar player. He gets skipped over. But you're gonna put in all the current members of the Dave Matthews Band. Like, to me, there's something wrong with that. You know, even in Deep Purple, they put in David Coverdale. Like, and I'm not saying he shouldn't have gone in. But I mean, why do you put in Coverdale, who only spent just literally a handful of years with them, but you don't put in Morse, who's been with them for decades? It's complete bullshit. I don't see how they come up with this stuff. Okay, then we got Depeche Mode, or as I like to call them, Depeche Commode. Actually, I like Depeche Mode. I think they're a really cool band. If you're gonna put in any kind of electronic band, then Depeche Mode's gotta go in. No question about it. They're going to be inducting Vince Clarke, who was an original member. He went on to form this band called Yaz with Alison Moyet, and then of course he went on to Erasure. So Depeche Mode, you know, they should be in if you're going to get into the electronic stuff, which you really can't avoid if you're getting into the 80s. And there really hasn't been a whole lot of representation in this field. So I wouldn't be shocked if this was the year for Depeche Mode. We'll see. But then we've got Kraftwerk, who are also being thought about for the Hall of Fame. This is their 6th year that they've been nominated. I mean, basically with Kraftwerk, anything that you hear that's got electronica in it, that's all traces back to Kraftwerk. They're the godfathers of electronic music. And it's funny how the godfathers kind of get looked over, you know, and that same thing for Prague. You know, we've got Yes is in there, Rush is in there, Genesis are in there, but King Crimson is not even considered. And it's because, you know, between King Crimson and Kraftwerk, they've got no hits, no songs that most people know. They're not a good draw in terms of, you know, people tuning in. People would probably change the channel when those bands came on. So that's where the Hall is coming from. They don't have the integrity to put those bands in because they're too worried about ratings and getting the young people in. And that's part of what I'm talking about, is we're missing some key bands because the Hall of Fame has other interests that kind of drive everything. All right, so up next we got the Doobie Brothers, and what a disgrace here. These guys should have been in a long time ago. How long? Well, they've been eligible since 1996, and this is the first time that they've been mentioned. I mean, and Tupac is in there, Green Day is in there, Madonna is in there, but the Doobies have been overlooked. It is a slap in the face. It's an insult, you know, to some of these bands. So yeah, Doobies, they should definitely be going in. No question about it. Then we've got Whitney Houston. And this is one of the things that I've heard people talking about is like, where the hell does she come from? She's not rock and roll, but we've got Janet Jackson is in there and Madonna is in there. So Whitney Houston, if you're playing by the current rules, Whitney Houston fits in, but where's Tina Turner? You want to talk about a rock and roll artist from the 60s and 70s and even into the 80s. Now she's already in there with Ike, but she had a whole career without Ike. No, there's no Tina Turner. So that is just, I don't even know what to say about that. Then we get Judas Priest. We get some metal. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has been trying to get more and more metal. They put in like Metallica, and of course Black Sabbath is in there, and Rush is in. Even though I don't consider Rush to be metal, but I'm talking about like the heavier bands. And Judas Priest, they've been nominated a couple of times now, and it might be their year. I'm not sure, but they definitely, if you're talking about bands that were at the forefront of a genre, then Judas Priest should definitely be in there. All right, up next is the MC5, and I just don't understand what's up with these guys. I mean, this is the second or third time that they've been nominated. I was talking to my father about this. He's in his early 70s. He was asking me who the MC5 were. I was like, that's from your generation. You're asking me? He's like, I don't know who the hell they are. The MC5, I really can't understand why they're getting so much traction. There must be some people within the Hall of Fame that really got a hard on for the MC5 because they haven't had any hits to speak of. Most people don't even know who they are. I'm not saying nobody was influenced by them, but I just don't see them as Rock and Roll Hall of Fame material. I really don't. So I would put a pass on the MC5. All right, so up next we got Motorhead, and as with Judas Priest, another band that was at the forefront of a genre, the whole metal genre. You gotta put in Lemmy and Motorhead. I don't know if it's their year. This is the first time nominated. We've seen a lot of bands. Just ask Kraftwerk. You can get nominated a bunch of times before you get in. So I'm not sure if this is their year. It's either going to be them or Priest. I don't think they'll both go in. It's going to be one or the other, all right? That's what I think. What do you think? Drop it down below. Let me know what your picks are, all right? Then we get 9 Inch Nails. And, 9 Inch Nails, they're a cool band. I remember when their first album came out in the late 80s, Pretty Hate Machine. I love that album. It's got some great stuff on it because it was, at that point, it was just very aggressive and it was very electronic. It was like Trent Reznor did everything on that album, programmed everything, and it just hit you hard, heavy guitars, and because usually like electronic music was kind of like New Order and Depeche Mode. It was like dancey kind of stuff, and but 9 Inch Nails kind of just grabbed you by the throat and like Head Like a Hole and Down in It, that kind of stuff I really, really liked. And as time went on, I think 9 Inch Nails, it just kind of sounded like the same old monotonous shit, and I kind of lost interest in it. But I think that there is a place for 9 Inch Nails in the Hall of Fame, especially if Green Day is in there. 9 Inch Nails has got to get in. I don't know if this is the time, but I could see them going in at some point. Up next, we've got the Notorious B.I.G. This is going to be the next one that I talk about. I've been talking about Tupac. You could probably, if you had a dime for every time I brought up Tupac, but the Notorious B.I.G. is going to be next. I think he's going to go in. I really do. This guy, John Sykes, who's running the hall, he seems to be kind of proud of the fact that, they're going into rap territory. And I think that B.I.G. or Biggie Smalls, he's going to go in just so they can keep up the rap appearances in the Hall of Fame. And I just, this is one of those things where it's like he has no place in this Hall of Fame, and it's nothing against Biggie Smalls. I'm not saying he's not a great rapper or anything. They should have a rap Hall of Fame. The problem is they don't. And because they don't, they're trying to shoehorn it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's really what it is. Country music, you may be shocked that there's no country artists trying to get into this thing, or that the Hall of Fame is not trying to bring more country into this thing. And it's because country music has got their own award show. They got their own country Hall of Fame. Rap doesn't really have, they may have something, but it's not prominent. And so how do you make rap prominent? Well, you shoehorn it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I just think it's a shame that we don't have something just for rock and roll. It had to become something much, much different. Then we've got Rufus featuring Shaka Khan, and were they big enough to put into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, really? I just don't really see it, to be honest with you. So I wouldn't get my hopes up on them going in, or at least I don't think they should be in there. Todd Rundgren, he's the other one. He's been nominated a couple times. He's really, I saw this, he basically didn't have much to say about it when he was asked, how he felt about getting into the Hall of Fame possibly. He was like, look, I don't give a shit. He really doesn't think the Hall of Fame has a whole lot of weight. And because of his attitude, maybe he won't get in as quickly as some of the others. Hall of Fame not rushing to get somebody in who's going to stand up and give a speech and be like, who gives a shit about all of this? Especially when the Hall of Fame ceremony is going to be live in 2020. Have you heard that? Now, unless something has changed, the last I heard, the 2020 ceremony for the very first time is going to be live, okay? Which means they can't cut out any boring shit. So that's something to consider, because they're going to want to put together the best show that they possibly can. And so, you're going to put in Rundgren? I mean, maybe. I don't know. But we'll see. We got Soundgarden. They're also being considered. They're a great band from the early part of the 90s, part of the grunge movement, part of the Seattle sound that was coming in, and they're definitely part of the forefront of that whole thing, and so they should be in there. I look for them to probably get in. I really, really do. Up next, we got TRex, and I really don't get the big deal with TRex. I mean, they had like one hit. They were bigger in Europe. I know they were an influential band, but I never really gave a shit about TRex and could care less if they get in or not. And then we get Thin Lizzy, the final nominee. Phil Lynott and the rest, should definitely be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They're another one that should have been in a while ago. And so hopefully Thin Lizzy will make it in. Not sure if it's their year, because they've got some others that need to go in, but we'll see. Let me know what you think. Out of that list, who do you think is going to go in? I'm going to pick, all right, this is who I'm going to pick based on the current rules, okay? I think Benatar is going to go in. I think the Doobie Brothers are going to go in. I think that Biggie Smalls, he's going to go in. I think Soundgarden is going to go in. Whitney Houston, all right, that's 5. And I think that we'll probably get Depeche Mode, and I think that we'll get Judas Priest. I've given 7 names. They put in 7 last year. So we'll see what happens. Let me know yours. Drop them down below. And then, of course, there's the list of, where are these bands? How come they haven't been inducted or even nominated yet? Like Boston. Can you believe Boston hasn't got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? But Tupac has gone in, and Madonna, and Green Day, and Biggie Smalls might, but there's no Boston? Phil Collins, can you believe that after all that guy has done, in and out of Genesis, I mean, the guy is still out there. The poor guy can't even stand up. Give him a nomination. I don't think he's even been nominated. It's a crime. Robert Plant, this guy was in Zeppelin. He's had a tremendous solo career, mixing genres and changing things up and never looking back, and just completely a forward-looking artist. No, we're not going to put in. We'd rather have Biggie Smalls, because we need something for the kids and we need something to kind of broaden the horizon. What a lot of shit. How about Sting? How about Sting? This guy was in the Police, and he's had, he's in there with them, but he's had this amazing solo career. Like it or not, he's been around a while. He's got to be considered. Why not Sting? I just do not get it. Tina Turner, I talked about her earlier. Why is she not in there? Iron Maiden, let's talk about them. They're like the new Rush. for the Hall of Fame. For the longest time, people have been saying Rush, Rush, topping the list. I think Maiden is going to become the new fly in the ointment for the Rock Hall of Fame. You know, I saw them this summer, amazing show. This is a band with no airplay. They get no help from anybody. They go out and do it themselves. And they're packing arenas and stadiums around the world, selling them out. And they've done it without any hits, without much of anything. And now we'll put in Biggie Smalls. Yeah. Now, if you're going to put in a band like the Dave Matthews Band, what about Phish? You want to talk about in the jam band genre. I mean, Phish have picked up where the Grateful Dead left off. I don't think you can ignore them. Foreigner. Where's Foreigner? You know, these guys are currently out on tour. They're touring the original band and the current band. They have broken down all kinds of boundaries in how a reunion can happen. There's so much, you know, back and forth between, you know, who should be in this lineup and who shouldn't be. They just got everybody up there. It's like one big happy family. It's like your ex-wives going out to dinner. It's crazy. And it would be perfect to nominate and induct Foreigner next year when they're out on tour and all that, when they're active. That would be great. But no, we got to put in Biggie Smalls and Whitney Houston. That's where it's at. Bad Company, how about them? Paul Rogers. It's just, you know, Styx, they're another band. Jethro Tull, they're another one, you know, forefront of prog rock, big leader in that. All right, so let me know who you think should go in from the list of nominees, who you think will go in, and we'll compare notes in January to see how close we were to the actual inductee list. And you can place your fan vote at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame website, and the fan vote doesn't count for a whole lot. It's like, it's equal to one vote that a member has, I think. So it's not like the fans are gonna decide who gets in or anything, but it would be interesting to see who leads the votes in terms of the fans for this particular list of nominees. So drop it down below, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, hit that subscribe button too. More videos coming soon. Like I said, tribute to Rick Ocasek of the Cars. Also, Yes, that's gonna be coming up very shortly. Lots going on in the Yes camp, and so I'm going to be talking about that, video about Iron Maiden and Van Halen. Stay tuned, all right, and I'll talk to you again soon. Take care.